If you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 415 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is Sean Sheehan, joined today by the Ivan Tony of Irish MMA Media, Graeme McDonald. And I always come in here and I go, we talk about a huge week in the world of mixed martial arts. This was a fucking huge week. We have 3 cards to get through here. We have another Irish world champion. We have a UFC champion, and we have the GOAT to talk about as well. So let's get right to it. Before we get into all of that, we have to tell you that summer's coming. It's here. This is actually the first time I've done a fucking podcast where I'm like sweating as I sit there and let me just look. It's 18 degrees, sorry. It's getting warm, so summer is here, and are you ready to unveil your beach bod yet? Well, if you aren't, Manscaped is here to ensure your body is ready for the wild with their game-changing full-body grooming and hygiene products. Don't be the guy at the beach with the Austin Power chest hair. Do it right. Make sure to be hairless, and it's time to get ready for hot guy summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA. I know myself and Graeme will be lying on the beach here pretty soon, and as we prepare for that, we'll be using the Lawnmower 4.0, which is part of the Performance Package 4.0. It is absolutely brilliant. Is this Performance Package 4.0? It comes with that lawnmower body trimmer, comes with the liquid formulations, it comes with the weed whacker and all of that great stuff. I love the crop preserver and crop reviver ball toner, anti-chafing deodorant moisturizer, because we know painful chafing can be getting to you when you're in your bathing suit all day. The weed whacker as well for your nose hair, get rid of them. That's exactly what you need, and you'll always need it. It has the advanced skin safe technology like the Lawnmower 4.0, which is waterproof, cordless, and absolutely brilliant. You have 2 free gifts too: the Shed travel bag and the patented high performance reduced chafing Manscaped boxers. And if you're wearing sandals, you'll need the Shears 2.0 kit as well. Having the right tools for grooming is essential. Do yourself a favor and use the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping using the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. It's 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. Trim your chesticles with the besticles. And Graeme, May is here now as well, and we'd like to propose something new for our listeners, if I may. A new sponsor, Calderalab, is here to get your summer skin ready, backed by the leading clinical trial where 9 out of 10 men experience healthier and visibly improved skin. Calderalab has the tool to keep your skin fresh and confident as the weather heats up this summer. Use the code SevereMMA at calderalab.com for 20% off their best products. Calderalab creates high-performance men's skincare products by combining pharmaceutical-grade science along with the nature's purest and most potent ingredients. As you age, you might notice fine lines, wrinkles, and signs of aging. It's time you take control with Calderalab. And to do that, use the Regimen Bundle. It has the Clean Slate, the Base Layer, and the Good. Clean Slate is how you start your day. It's a balancing cleanser with gentle plant-based cleansing, leaving all your skin types exceptionally refreshed. The base layer there is a nutrient-dense fortifying moisturizer that hydrates your skin and absorbs fast, leaving you a matte finish so you can start your day confidently. And in the Good is your go-to at night before you go to bed. It's clinically proven multifunctional serum that helps your skin look tighter and smoother, as well as helping visibility of wrinkles and fine lines. If you want to take your skin to the next level, Calderalab, then look no further than the Icon. It is a rejuvenating eye serum that addresses the 3 main most common skin concerns around the eye, and that's fine lines, dark circles, and puffiness. Calderalab is committed to transparency, sustainability, and excellence. It's on a mission to make men's skincare better around the world, priding itself on clean ingredients and doing right by their customers through uncompromising craftsmanship, exceptional ingredients, and rigorous transparency. Calderalab is here to upgrade your skin and confidence. So get 20% off with the code SevereMMA at Calderalab.com. That's 20% off at Calderalab.com by using the code SevereMMA. Take your skincare to the next level this summer with Calderalab. Right, Graeme, where to start? Let's start with Caolan Loughran, because I feel like, look, we're an Irish MMA podcast. We have to talk about the Irish MMA guy first up, I think, because do you know what? It was the most dominant of all. So we kind of 3 bantamweight. I know the one championship one was flyweight, but we 3 bantamweight-ish title fights in the 3 events this weekend. And obviously, you know, Cage Warriors, we know what Cage Warriors is. It's the show to get to the big show, absolutely. But who won most dominantly? Who won in the most exceptional fashion out of all 3 of them? You know, and I'm not saying Caolan Loughran's better than Demetrius Johnson or Aljamain Sterling here, but the answer is Caolan Loughran. It was an absolutely brilliant performance. Like, only the way that Caolan Loughran does it. We've spoken about his style now for the last few years here, you know, looking at his fights. He has this odd, brilliant style that I'm not sure it should work in MMA, but by God, it fucking does. He uses his style so well. He just put a beating on Dylan Hazan, and I was so impressed. And we'll get into the fight, Graeme, but this was a mesmeric performance, wasn't it? It was absolutely brilliant from Caolan Loughran. Were you as impressed as I was with it?
Yeah, it was a brilliant performance, a brilliant domination that got more dominating as it went on. Like, in the first round, Hazan did throw a few shots and land a few shots, but they just weren't coming with the same force and meanness as the Loughran strikes were coming out. He was mixing it up really well. He was making it difficult, always being in his face. And yeah, I thought, you know, there was a lovely straight kick up the middle that he landed early on and was using again. And he just mixed it up and kept him guessing, and kept his opponent on the back foot and really kind of took the fight away from him, especially as the fight went on. He got more dominant, and the finish was very nice too. Mixed in the uppercut that hurt him, and then a couple more punches, and another big uppercut that was pretty much the end. And yeah, it was a good stoppage and a really, really dominant performance. And you know, he's probably ready to go into the UFC, but I always kind of take the careful route with Irish prospects, and getting a couple of more fights under his belt as Cage Warriors champion, even though he was so dominant with his finish and all that, I think would probably be better for his longevity inside the UFC. Like, we look at Rhys McKee, like talking himself afterwards, saying that he thought he was ready, but he probably wasn't ready the first time, especially to go in on short notice and things like that. So I think there's no real rush here. He's still early in his career. He's still only recently stepped up against high level competition, even though he's blown through them and looked fantastic and is probably ready for the UFC. I don't think there should be a rush.
I could not agree more. I think you're exactly right. Like, I think the biggest problem Cage Warriors and Ian Dean will have is finding someone to actually fight him, or to fight towards the level of Caolan Loughran. But they will find someone. There's no problem that way either. And I think 2 fights, I think, will be enough. 2 more fights to defend the belt a couple of times and then go on. But that's, I suppose, a conversation maybe for another day. If he got to the UFC now, I don't think...
Well, that's the conversation that happens straight away after you win a Cage Warriors belt. Is he going to the UFC? Is he sticking around? You know, that's historically been it, even though maybe it's a little bit more up in the air now, as we've talked about. With, you know, we have Rhys McKee, we have Paul Hughes, and we have now Caolan as the Cage Warriors champions. And historically, probably at least one of them, if not 2 of them, would have been a sure thing for the UFC. But now it's murky. Yeah,
and I think with Caolan, this is his first appearance at the big stage, right? Whereas Paul Hughes was kind of around it for a good while. He won the interim belt, and he won the belt, and he was, you know, Rhys McKee obviously was at the UFC, and he was at a title stage 3 or 4 years ago at this stage now, and now he's obviously back at it again, and you know, so it's a little bit different. But actually, back to the fight itself anyway, because like, it's I just think this was such a destructive performance, because like the first round was close, but you look at it and like Caolan's shots were just having so much more of an effect than Hazan's. And like, Hazan is a very good fighter. And I was predicting this, I thought it'd be a longer fight. I thought Hazan would do well. I did pick Caolan coming into it, but I thought it'd be a much tougher fight, maybe go late. But the second he landed that front kick...
Yeah, I was going to say that. He was actually dazed after that. I think he probably would have put up more of a fight if he hadn't have been rocked so badly for an extended period of time from that kick straight up the middle.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm of the exact same mind. I was talking to someone about it. I was like, I think that fight was over from that point. And it's, do you know what? This is great credit to Dylan Hazan, because the fact that he fucking stuck in there for probably another, 4 minutes-ish of a fight against Caolan Loughran, who was on point, is a credit to him. And I think if Caolan does go to UFC, Dylan Hazan will be right back in there, because he's a damn good fighter as well, so take nothing away from him. But Caolan just made him pay all night. And like, as you said, Graeme, Dylan Hazan was landing a lot of shots. This is probably the most shots Caolan has ever taken in a fight. And he'll obviously go back and he'll look at that as well and try to change things up. But he only had 7 fights before this, and only 4 or 5 of them were actually real fights. We know what the
he's been fighting
part.
Professionally 3.5 years.
Yeah.
At the start he was fighting kind of guys who you'd expect to beat. It's only been the last year and 2 months that he's taken, or not even, he took a step up in June 2022.
It's amazing.
A year ago.
Yeah. It's crazy, where he's gotten in such a quick time. And I think he's one of these guys that truly believes in his style, and it shows. I was actually talking to Reese the other day. I'll have an interview coming out over in Sherdog this week, and I think he's one of the guys as well. We've talked so long about Reese and him being comfortable and calm in there. I don't think Caolan is necessarily as calm in there, but Jesus, he's as comfortable, and he's comfortable in his own skin. He's comfortable with his style, and you can really, really see it, because it takes balls to fight in that way and fight in a type of a different way. Where he's kind of throwing short leg kicks and short front kicks up through the middle and all of that. And even when he does take a shot or two, he still sticks to his game and still does it the way he wants to do it. And God almighty, I had questions about whether it's possible that game can take him, even to here. But by God, he's proven, and not that he's proven me wrong. I just had questions I can't wait to see that. And what I have seen has been very, very, very good. I honestly, I think that first round, it's one of those ones where you toss a coin kind of who won it, but it's hard not to give that to Caolan for the effect that his strikes have. But that doesn't matter, because that first round set up the second round, because when Hazan took a lot of shots.
Maybe if you missed the kind of kick up the middle and thought it was a body shot rather than a kind of concussive shot, then maybe, you'd look at the round completely differently.
Yeah. I think Hazan, so he took that big hard shot. He was basically out of it for the rest of the fight. Not necessarily out of it for the rest of the fight, but was hurt for the rest of the fight. And then Loughran put 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 4, and it was about the 6th time he hit him with a big hard shot, I think, that Hazan was just, there's no more here. And I think if he hadn't landed that first big shot and he'd landed those, say, 6 big shots, I think Hazan probably would have kept going. But it was people always, I remember Patrick Wyman, who was one of the best analysts in the game back in the day. He's over doing his history podcast now. Check that out. But he used to always say about McGregor that look, obviously he's 1 punch knocked out Jose Aldo now, but he was more of he'd knock you out in 6 or 7 punches over 2 or 3 rounds kind of a fighter. And I think Caolan Loughran's a little bit like that as well, He'll hit you hard, hurt you, hit you hard again, hurt you, hit you hard again, hurt you, and keep coming like a fucking dynamo. He never stops, just fighting at that sort of hurtful pace. And it's weird because, I keep mentioning his style, and anyone who watches him, and watch other 135 pounders can see he's not moving around. And I call him a dynamo. He's not the Demetrius Johnson type of dynamo. He's a power dynamo. He just, he conserves his energy for all say maybe a Yoel Romero at 135 pounds or something like that. And it works so fucking well for him. And Hazan was not able to stand up to it, because as well, when you're throwing all your best shots and landing some of them against Caolan, and they have zero effect on him, and his shots are hurting you every single time, it must be so tough. Imagine being an opponent.
Do you think that was the case, or he couldn't even kind of get the forward momentum to kind of get his game going the way he would like to? I don't know. Maybe it was a bit of both.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Dylan Hazan got his game going the way he'd want to. Like, we must talk about Caolan Loughran's takedown defense as well. Absolutely unbelievable. Like, Jose Aldo time. I talked about McGregor earlier. This is just, maybe people think I'm going overboard here, but go and watch the fight. It was fucking brilliant. But you are right. But having said that, credit to Hazan, because he did land big shots. There's no doubt about that. He didn't get his game going. He didn't get his wrestling. He didn't get the forward momentum. He didn't. I would say he probably wasn't happy with 1 second of that fight tactically. He was probably happy with a few times he hit Caolan, but they didn't really do anything. Like, they really, really didn't. And it was a real destruction, I think. It was just so good. So good. And like, what a time though it's been, Graeme, for, Ulster MMA, but Irish MMA in general. Like, I put out a tweet yesterday and I probably forgot loads of people, but if you think about it, right, Caolan Loughran is the champion now, and so he's 135, 145 Paul Hughes. We could have Joe McColgan at 155 if he stuck around, and 170 Reece McKee. Absolutely unbelievable. You think about it even outside of that. Danny McCormick's a champion in Invicta. Sean O'Bannon is the number one contender. Sinead Kavanagh is arguably the number one contender over in Bellator. Lee Hammond is in tough. Kiefer Crosby's on the verge of signing for the UFC. Ian Garry's fighting next week. We'll obviously talk about that later on. If he wins that fight, he could be on the verge of the top 15 as well. Like, they're, Peter Queally ranked in Bellator. James Gallagher are probably on the verge of being ranked again if he fights towards the end of the year or whatever. And there's probably a few people I'm forgetting about. Or Liam McCourt is ranked. Always thereabouts. Put on a great display against Katzengano. And all the up-and-comers like your Dara Kellys, your Kenny Mukahanas. Look at Franz Malambo has a massive fight coming up here in PFL, and many more as well. Jeez, a great fucking time for Irish MMA. It's absolutely brilliant. And like, it's great to be, covering this, and the fact that the lads in the Old Triangle started at a great time. And a lot of people stopped talking about Irish MMA. A lot of people wrote off Irish MMA, saying, "Oh, it's gone. The golden age is gone. Our golden goose is gone, and we have nothing. There's nothing else. Nothing left. Oh, we'll talk about Leon Edwards, or we'll talk about whatever."
There definitely was hard times, and then there was like problems, and there was COVID, and there was a lack of shows and stuff. But now it does seem to have come back strong, and these guys that have been waiting to get fights are raring to go and raring to prove themselves. And Cage Warriors being back, the Bellator shows, PFL coming, it's definitely is. It's really picked up, and it's exciting times. And these guys are proving that they're ready. We have the three champions in Cage Warriors, as you said. Ian Garry, recent champion, has gone to the UFC. As you mentioned, Joe McColgan retired or vacated the Cage Warriors belt. And all, so as you said, everything Lee Hammond on Tough, that's going to bring. Tough has been kind of in the shadows. That might bring. It's yet to be seen what the interest will be in that, but that could bring some big interest there as well. Obviously, Connor's going to be on that. He's going to be fighting Chandler afterwards. So yeah, this is a really, really good time for Irish MMA, and it's probably not going to live up to the same kind of fairy tale that happened before with the kind of first generation, but this is a new story. This is our own path, and it doesn't have to live up to the kind of mania of the other thing to be fantastic in its own right.
It's never going to be Conor. You take away Conor though, and what we have now is better than what we had before. Like, if you think about it, it really is. Like, when did Ireland have three champions at the moment? And also, right, I said all the weight divisions. Fucking James Webb, an Irish trained fighter, is fighting for the middleweight title coming up. It could be fucking packed with Irish trained champions. And now Caolan is training in the UK, so maybe we should say that as well. Although he does a bit of training in Ireland as well. But it's I just think it's a brilliant time, and it's like, that's no disrespect to the likes of Carl Binger, Ashing Daly, or Paul Redmond, or Norman Parker, whoever it might be.
Well, they led the way,
absolutely. But we have that level again now. Forget about Conor. No one's ever going to reach Conor in worldwide MMA. But after that, like, those three lads who are champions at the moment could all be signed right now. Lee Hammond and Kiefer Crosby could all be signed right now. And like, that's not a thing to me saying, I'm being wishful or anything. Like, that literally could happen. And I think we're in a great fucking place. And even if it doesn't, even if only one or two of them or whatever, and the other lads have to maybe fight again and then come back, they're at that level anyway. And we know they're at that level. And it's absolutely brilliant to see. And fair play to everyone who's like stuck around and you know, from the fighters to the coaches to the very few media who stuck around and done it too, because as you said, it was hard during the fucking pandemic and when there's no fights and all of that, and like it's very hard for the fighters to come up when there's no amateur fights and when there was no pro fights and nothing going on to get that fucking lift to the next level. And by God, have they stuck at it and have they done it, and it's absolutely brilliant to see. It's hard. Like, we're objective media members here and all as well, but it's hard not to be fucking proud when you see people from your own country who you know how tough it's been on them reach that level. And I saw a lot of people at the weekend say, Jesus Christ, Caolan Loughran, it's fucking brilliant watching, man. We couldn't hide it. We were on Fight Pass the last week, Graeme, when Reece McGee jumped into the crowd and we were both smiling even though your laptop went flying. But it was, it's hard to hide it. And like, I'm happy for Aljamain Sterling as well, and I'm happy for Demetrius Johnson and all, but God almighty, what a brilliant time for Irish MMA. And like, I'm not talking about the beef today. People, these petty little bitches can talk about that beef, but like, I can't wait for a Bellator to come and for it to be a great card and for Irish guys to win on that and climb to the next level. Same with PFL. I hope they all get the fucking million or the 100,000 or what it is and get to that next level, and Cage Warriors as well, and the UFC. It's brilliant. No fucking negativity today, Graeme. All positivity, but fucking class. Brilliant.
I want to say a rising tide lifts all ships.
It does indeed.
Is that me buttering it, or is that
No, that's right. We will, we'll touch on the rest of Cage Warriors a little bit here. Darren Stewart had a good win over Leon Aliu. Janice Bashir got a fucking brilliant win over Carlo Pedras Holly, although they both tired badly there. Have you seen this Gerardo Fanni, Tanio Pagliariccio thing, Graeme? John Kavanagh put up a tweet saying it should be made into disqualification. Well, it would have to be a no contest. There should have been a disqualification at the time. It was a weird one again. We had one like this last week with Takamandu in a different sort of way. But so Pagliariccio took a knee, clearly illegal knee. He was given a bit of time. The fight went on, and then at the end of the second there was retirement, and it was kind of like, what happened? I felt like he had double vision or something. I haven't heard yet, but I feel like this one is a little bit different to the Taka one, because the referee had made the mistake in the Taka one. Like, it was Fanny who did the foul here. The referee looked at him, assessed him. Pagliariccio kind of like, he wouldn't have been put back in there if he, and I know it's, when a guy is concussed as he might have been or whatever, that's not maybe the referee or the doctor should have assessed that and said,
was he checked by the doctor? He wasn't checked by the doctor at all.
I don't know. Actually, was he checked by? Surely was checked by the doctor, was he? I'll have to go back and watch it, actually.
If he wasn't, then they definitely should have been, and that's definitely a problem. He could have been concussed. He could have been not seeing properly. Rugby, football, fighters, if you ask them, are you okay to continue? They're all going to say yes, even if they're not. We see it time and time again over the years. You need a independent, like TIA, as they call it in rugby or whatever, or concussion kind of doctor, or somebody who understands about concussions, doctor, to come in and take a look and say, okay, I think you're okay to continue, or you're not. So if that didn't happen, it should have happened at the time. I actually can't remember if the doctor saw him or not, looked at him or not. Right,
so I just paused it there when we went to look, because that's an important thing. The doctor did come in. Tanio said he was all right to continue. The doctor said he was all right to continue. So it's a tough one. As I said, it didn't look terrible, but you never know. But like, for the doctor, for the referee, when it doesn't look terrible, it's very hard to put anything on them. Like, and yeah, I if that was reviewed by a board or whatever, I don't think that one is getting turned around. It's very unfortunate, but look, that's the way.
In rugby, I know this is a different sport, but they take them off for like a couple of minutes at least and kind of do a test on them. Maybe like in these circumstances, there needs to be like a provision where there is a certain amount of time taken to do like a concussion protocol to see if they are okay to continue in the event of an illegal strike. Like, maybe that's something that could be brought in the future, to kind of combat concussions.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that would take too long, or how many fingers am I holding up thing enough? Like, I honestly don't know. Maybe it's a thing we need to if there's any doctors out there, let us know.
They're probably holding up 2 or 3 fingers, so you have probably a 50-50 chance of getting it right, even if you can't see.
Yeah. 7. Other than that, it was an interesting card. A lot of the Italian guys got to win. A big win for Sam Creasy as well, who I think he needed that, and he got a good win over Lupoli, so he's back in the mix there at 125 pounds as well. Dario Bellardi got a win too, so good night again for Cage Warriors. Right, let's move on and let's talk about UFC 288, Graeme. It was... Someone asked me last week about the upcoming pay-per-views, and I was like, oh no, they're actually really good. They're pretty good, and and they were kind of saying they were bad, and I was like, no, they're pretty good. This was not great. It really wasn't. I think recently, with a lot of the pay-per-views we've come into, and a lot of the cards even, look, a lot of the cards deliver, and most of the pay-per-views deliver. This one, not so much. I saw someone tweeting last night, the most fun moment of the main card was Merab Joshvili stealing Sean O'Malley's jacket. 2 lads who aren't even fighting, and they had there was something to be said for that, all right, but yeah, the top 2 fights kind of damn squibs.
Well, in fairness to the Gilbert Burns fight, maybe, the first round was pretty competitive, especially up until he seemed to lose all ability to use his left side of his arm and hand. So that was a bit unfortunate. I think it probably would have been a more competitive, more exciting fight if he had kind of a left side attack, and Belal Muhammad didn't just kind of circle that way the whole time and be kind of out of danger. Yeah,
it definitely did help, but I don't know. We might as well talk about that fight first, as you brought it up. As you said, the first round was close. Belal probably hit him the harder, landed some body shots, and towards the end of the round landed more shots as well. He got injured in the second round, but I don't know. I
think it was the first round he got injured, was it?
Maybe it was, but you have to get through that. I don't know. How many? I remember GSP back in there. What fight was it where one of his arms was fucked? And you have to get through those sort of things. I don't know. You find different ways. Get the fight to the ground. Get a takedown. But Gilbert, just his whole demeanor changing, and it's easy for me to say absolutely, but we're talking about the best fighters in the world in one of the top 2 or 3 best divisions in the world. You have to fucking hold them to a high standard here, right? And to be fair now, at least Gilbert had an excuse. What was Belal's excuse? Although he did look injured coming into it. He was fucking limping around. He had a big swollen ankle on him. He didn't look in great shape, and I know he took it in short notice. It was one of those fights where, to be fair, as I said, both lads look compromised, and it looked like that sort of fight as well. Belal was changing stances, and he was making it very hard for Gilbert to land anything, but it just turned into that fight for the whole night. Once Belal realised in the 4th round, it took him ages to realise that Burns had something wrong with his left shoulder or arm or whatever. He started absolutely battering the kicks at the arm, which is obviously, a good tactic if you're trying to win the fight and trying to position yourself for a title shot, and you got to do it, and I take no qualms with that. But I was surprised it actually took him that long to realise that there was nothing coming from the left side of Gilbert. Yeah, and even before that, though, I thought the best thing about this fight was the tactical awareness, I think, of Belal. The fact that he made himself a moving target, the fact that he was very, very varied in everything he did and was able to land lots of shots with that, that kind of close-in Dagestani boxing, as I like to call it now, training with Habib and Makhachev and them over the last year or so. I think he did it fairly well. Not much of a takedown threat from him. That takedown that Gilbert did get, and I know they didn't call it a takedown, but it was definitely a fucking takedown. He got injured from it, so there was basically no more of them after that, and then it kind of just... I have my notes here. I just stopped taking notes when it got to round 5. It's he wouldn't have fight. Fair play to him. Look, it was... And it's hard to say because it was a good win and a great performance from Belal. A great win from Belal Muhammad, a very good performance, a very smart performance. But it's also one of those ones where, you know, even I was joking, well, maybe Colby did deserve it. You know, and I like a lot of
I was just thinking he's probably lucky that Dana White kind of already announced that it would be for the number one contendership, because, well, he might still pull the rug on that one, but it puts a little bit more pressure on him to actually give the fight. You could see Dana White sometimes after a fight that doesn't really live up to the excitement, that he's really down on the fighters and may kind of overlook them. So hopefully for Bilal's sake that doesn't happen, but it seems like it's a set in stone as things can be in the UFC.
Yeah, and like, I might sound like I'm being too negative on Belal here, and I am in a way, but like, he deserves great credit.
Well, if Colby had fought Gilbert Burns, you know, and an injured Gilbert Burns had done the same thing, you'd probably be saying the same thing. You're in a difficult position. Gilbert Burns is still dangerous, but you haven't compromised, and you're just kind of doing the smart thing and just taking the victory.
The injury to Burns was actually probably the worst thing for Belal, because if he hadn't been injured and Belal had just kind of 50-45 them or whatever, I think a lot of people would have said, like, okay, Gilbert way too tentative or whatever, but fair play to Belal, made him that way. And he did make him that way in the first 2 rounds. Like, he really, really did. And he made him that way for the whole fight, really. But the injury did change things, and it did make it a little bit more messy and a little bit less impressive, and that's unfortunate for Belal. It really is. But take nothing away from his tactical performance, and look, he's right up there. He's going to be the next in line after Colby, so look, he deserves it. He's won enough fights to deserve that there. But I think Gilbert Burns is at a real interesting point in his career, because I kind of predicted the tentativeness coming into it because of the way he fought against Masvidal. I thought there was very worrying signs in that fight. Like, you're a guy who takes the initiative, who throws lots of big shots, who gets the fight to the ground. You need to fight that way. And when you don't fight that way against someone like a Masvidal, like, and he won, fair play to him, it'll either like make you say, okay, I need to fight this way all the time, or it'll kind of be hard to get out of fighting in that fashion. And I thought that was really the case here. Like, I joked he looked like Douglas Lima, but like, that's probably the worst thing you could ever say about someone, that they look like Douglas Lima the way he fights now, like, just like stands there, throws nothing and just waits, and was once such a great fighter. I fear that's what Belal is now, or what Burns is now. Maybe
it could be the case, but you know, he's coming off a tough camp, more than likely against Masvidal. Maybe he didn't give his body enough time to heal. You know, that shoulder, obviously, maybe that was a part of, you know, ideally or usually he would have had time to rest that shoulder. Maybe it was a previous injury or something. You know, just too much time putting in hard work and not giving yourself a break, turning around too quickly. That could be part of it as well. Why he did look kind of sloppy, but maybe it is that his best days are behind him. But with a shoulder injury and a quick turnaround and the kind of factors around it, I'd be more of the wait and see in his next fight or two.
Indeed. All right, let's talk about the main event. How did you score it, Graeme? First of all, I'll throw it straight over to you, because like, there was a little bit of controversy, I think, about this, but I didn't think there should have been. What way did you score it?
I scored the first, third, and fourth for Sterling, and the second and fifth for Cejudo. I think the second was really close, like, really close, but I leaned Cejudo in that one just about. But going into the fifth round, I thought he needed a finish, and you know, his corner told him that he kind of didn't, nearly, that he just needed to win the round. So maybe things could have been a little bit different. Maybe he would have went for it more. And I don't think the finish was really ever nearly there, though. Having said that, but you know, maybe the fourth round he would have put it on the gas more if his corner hadn't told him he was 2-1 up when he was likely 2-1 down. But I saw some people did have him 2-1 up going into the fourth round. So there was a bit of kind of uncertainty about how the rounds are being scored. But for me, it was 48-47 Sterling.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw.
I think you can make more of a case for 49-46 Sterling than you can for 48-47.
I 100% agree. Yeah, I 100% agree. It's one of those fights, before we even get into the intricacies of the scoring or anything, I think if you look at that fight, not to go full one championship or anything here, but you look at that fight like as a whole and think who was the better fighter. If Cejudo had won that fight, I genuinely think it would have been a fucking travesty. Like, Sterling was like just by far and away the better fighter, like by far and away.
But in terms of the scoring, it was pretty close. You know, that third round, if he had like one or two different things that happened, it could have been a rightful scorecard for Henry. Yeah,
and I think all three judges did give him the third round.
Yeah, I actually didn't give him the third round.
Didn't either.
So it's definitely close enough that you can make a case, I think.
Oh, you can make a case, yeah. And like Sterling won the fight because one judge gave him the 5th round. Now, not alone, obviously, but if that one judge hadn't given him the 5th round, he wouldn't have won. So that's, some 2 wrongs don't make a right. But in this case, I think they did. Because if, God almighty, if that hadn't happened and Cejudo would have won, I think I don't know if I'd go as far as robbery, but I think it wouldn't be great. Like, it really wouldn't be great. You can't argue rounds. Like, I'll just run through the rounds maybe from what I saw. I thought in the first round, Aljo was very aggressive, but Cejudo wasn't panicking. You know, in the clinch, Henry Cejudo was like much stronger. He threw him to the ground, but he didn't land anything, didn't do anything. Aljo got up, landed some nice shots. Henry was trying to counter and landed a couple, but I think the takedown from Aljo with the knees were the deciding factor in that round, and I think he like that's an Aljo round there. It was a close round.
There was a couple of good early shots as well from Aljo at the very start.
Yeah, there was. In the second round, and I want to talk more about this in a second, but it was all 1 shots from Aljo, and it was working so well for him, constantly moving in and out. Cejudo was landing a little bit more, but I don't think it was enough. I saw a lot of people scoring this round for Cejudo. I think people go and watch that back. Jesus, I don't know. I didn't see it. Third was very close now, to be fair. Big knee from Henry landed, and he landed one nice right hand down through the middle as well. Got into like the headlock position, but Aljo was picking him off. There was a bit of a clinch. Aljo kind of got a takedown towards the end as well. And there was a few rounds where like Henry got a takedown towards the end, Aljo got a takedown, and none of them really made any of it.
They were very quickly to call Aljo's kind of tripping out of the leg and Cejudo being on one knee kind of against the cage, takedown. Like, I know it doesn't really matter, but like in terms of the scoring or anything, but the commentary booth were very quickly to try and award Aljo a takedown, I thought. So
bad on it. The fourth round was close for about 3 minutes, and Aljo like clearly pulled away, I think, in the fourth round. And in the fifth, I think the fifth was the same. It was close. So it was Henry early, Aljo in the middle, and then Henry late. I think it was a pretty clear Henry round though as well. Henry was pressing. He was pressing well, but not really landing much. And then Aljo was kind of picking him up and didn't really land anything big. There was another big right hand from Henry. I think that was probably Henry's best shot of the night in that fifth round. He landed a few knees in the clinch as well, which were very, very good. He got the takedown, took the back. There was nothing there, but it was definitely Henry's round. But yeah, I had it 4-0 for Aljo going into the fifth, and I think Henry won the fifth. And it was honestly, I think it would not have been right if Cejudo had won that fight, and it went, the right guy won the fight without a shadow of a doubt. Just on the tactics itself, I thought, and like, I have to shout out Ray Longo. What a fucking career that man has had, and through 3 generations of the sport, he's had champions, and again here now a champion who's defending his belt multiple times, and now he's Merab coming up as well, and we'll talk about Frivola in a few minutes as well. Huge credit to Ray Longo and Matt Serra. Like, what absolutely brilliant coaches there. It has to be said, but to have a small team and probably not the most money and stuff in the world to achieve what they have. But I thought the tactics of Aljamain Sterling were absolutely fantastic, because we talked in the previous show, and myself and Harry and Ian all kind of like mused, like, which fights do we watch in the past to actually like decipher what's going to happen here, because no one had ever fought someone similar to Henry for Aljo, Aljo for Henry. And I think it was the Moraes fight that I picked out, and I think the lads picked it out as well, where Henry was constantly countering every time Merab would throw combinations. And I think what Aljo did, he watched that fight and he was throwing, I said it, he was throwing 1 shot at a time. When he threw the 1 shot early, it was pulling counters from Henry. But Aljo was throwing the 1 shot, getting straight back out, and Henry was hitting fresh air over and over and over again. And by the time the second, third, fourth round game, Henry wasn't throwing half as much. Aljo was just picking. I kept using the phrase picking him apart there in my notes, and when talking about the fight, I really believe he was picking him apart, because Henry wasn't throwing anything back, because he knew there'd be no second, third, fourth shot there in combination from Aljo. It was all the 1 shot in and out sort of stuff. And I think that was a brilliant tactical display by Aljamain Sterling to fight like that, because it's very tough to fight like that. You know, you probably have the commentary saying, "Oh, you need to throw in," and Din Thomas, who's probably the worst analyst in the fucking history of MMA, coming on, he needs to throw in combination, and like, he doesn't need to throw in combination. He's doing exactly what he needs to do, and he was doing it very, very well. And
he was frustrating Henry in terms of the distance, and that was what was winning him the round. So if he starts throwing longer combinations, you know, that changes that. So yeah, he definitely stuck to a game plan, and you know, it looked at one stage like he was starting to get tired early on. I can't remember exactly, maybe even in the end of the second round or the third round, but he got a second wind, and you know, to fight at that intensity and to be moving that much, it's a difficult thing to do. And you know, you make a small mistake or you slow down too much against Henry, and you can be in trouble. So like, all around, it was a brilliant performance, and as you said, sticking to a game plan really well. You know, despite the rounds being close, he believed in the game plan and what he was doing, and you know, listened to his coaches in the corner, who you mentioned gave some really good advice. And it was a close fight. They were close rounds, but yeah, I think most people would agree that the right guy got the nod.
And I think sticking to the game plan after being taken down heavily, you know, in the first round is a big thing as well, because we've seen fights before where people go out with a game plan, you know, they get punched in the face or they get taken down or something happens, and they no longer have that game plan in their heads. They go to plan B or whatever it might be, or fighting off instinct, and he didn't do that.
There was kind of one stage though where he was kind of spamming takedowns kind of from the outside. Henry was easily defending. He got away from that, but if he maybe that was one moment where he one period where he kind of got away from the game plan a little bit.
I think the fight did delve into that a little bit. It kind of got a bit scrappy for moments, but I think you kind of have to do that maybe two at times. It calls for. How do you think Cejudo looked overall after being out for 3 years?
Yeah, he did look a little bit rusty. You know, it is hard coming back. It's always very interesting when a guy comes back. I find it very interesting anyway, when a guy comes back who hasn't kind of been beaten out of the sport, 10 losses in a row or whatever, needs to retire, comes back. I'm not really too interested. But when a guy kind of on the top of the game retires and comes back 3 years later, it's a hard one to judge, and it depends on, you know, how much he's been in the gym and, you know, keeping to the training levels that you need to, you know, go up against an Aljamain Sterling at a higher weight class than you fought most of your career. And although he was the champion there, it's still a big ask, especially after 3 years. And maybe his timing was off a little bit, and he did tire a little bit more than we've seen him in the past. But that was down to the high intensity from Aljo as well. So yeah, it's hard to know how much of it was the layoff, but his timing did seem a little bit off.
Yeah, I found it hard to tell, to be honest, because of the way Aljamain fought, really. I didn't think the timing a little bit off, yeah, but I didn't think he looked bad. I think he looked good. I think it was was it the best Henry you've ever seen? No. But was it a bad Henry or anything like that? No. So
if he had come back and fought a kind of a warm-up fight and been in the condition and ability he would have probably won easily, and he would have been in another camp for this fight, and it probably would have been the kind of safer way to go to give yourself the best chance of beating Aljo. But obviously, you know, he backed himself, and it was quite close and all that. But yeah, I definitely think a little bit of rustiness from the layoff showed.
I think as well though, Aljamain has had lots of fights where he hasn't got the full amount of credit for them, and I think this is one he should get a lot of credit for. He beat the guy and beat him well.
Yeah, and that Henry Cejudo would beat nearly everybody, exactly. You know, after the layoff.
Yeah, 100%. So I think he deserves the credit for it, and fair play to him. It was a very, very good win, and it was a weird. The New Jersey crowd were fucking weird. I couldn't get a call on him at all. I'm like, do these lads like Aljo? And they were, you know, he's kind of the local guy, but
they seemed to like Aljo, but then they started cheering for Henry at one stage. So yeah.
They kind of hate themselves. I think, I don't know. They're a weird crowd. Them all New Jersey lads. But yeah, look. Anyway, a great win for Henry. And Sean O'Malley came in afterwards. As I said, Merab robbed his jacket. It's a very interesting division because Merab might be the best fighter in that division, but he can fight Aljo. So Aljo's fighting Sean O'Malley. And, like, there's so much talent. Like, Petr Yan, the fact he's not even in the conversation anymore is fucking mad. And, you know, we'd Aldo there not too long ago. And we have Sandhagen, who's a brilliant fighter. It's a fucking... What a division it is. Absolute monster-filled division. And I can't wait to see that fight. Looks like it's going to be in Boston in August, I think they said. So, yeah, that'll be fun. Looking forward to seeing that. Let's jump through the rest of the card here. The lads on the Balance Breakdown will be breaking this down, Harry and Eno, on Tuesday morning. So check that out. The audio will be up on our Patreon and the video will be out on our YouTube. So check them out there. But we'll quickly run through the card here. And also, if you fancy signing up to our Patreon, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast, please do that, because our YouTube channel has still been demonetized. We can get no money through that. It's fucking terrible. So if you'd like to help us out, keep the lights on, feel free over there. And there's podcasts every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and now Friday as well. So yeah, check all that out. Yan Xiaonan, fuck, she's coming from Zhang Weili, taking everything I've been working for, motherfucker. I'm gonna fight your fucking ass. Beat Jessica Andrade, knocked her not quite spark out. I think a few people calling it an early stoppage. I thought it was grand. I thought the referee gave her an opportunity to defend herself. She didn't. And
I think people know how much of a tough nut Jessica is. Maybe they're that's coming into it a little bit.
Yeah, it was a heavy enough knockout now, and she landed a couple of hammer fists as well. I wasn't expecting this. I think most people weren't expecting this from Yan Xiaonan, but very good stuff from her.
I wasn't expecting it. She really just ran in there, chased her across the octagon, swinging wild punches, and just left herself wide open, and just basically ran in. The force of the punch and the forward momentum would have added to the impact, and you know, it was quick. There was some quick ground and pound, and although she wasn't knocked out, she was eating punches and not defending herself, and the ref was telling her to, and she didn't. And yeah, I think it was a fair stoppage. Yeah,
I always say as well, when you're thinking about a stoppage like that, like, ask yourself the question: did the fighter take one too many undefended punches? And when they do, I think that's a good reason to stop it. And I think that was the case here. She'll get the title shot now, I think, and she deserves it. You beat Jessica Andrade in that sort of fashion, you deserve the title shot. So that should be a big fight. I don't know if they're going to do it in China or not, but that'd be fucking huge. So
yeah, I can't remember, but when's the last time like Andrade was taken out like that?
I know Blanchfield beat her, but not quite like that. I don't think she's ever been knocked out, Andrade, in that fashion. I think she's 11 losses here. I'm looking, geez, that's a lot of losses, but yeah, I don't think she's been taken out like that, and not that I can remember anyway. So very good stuff from Yan Xiaonan. This Ivalev Lopez fight was a very interesting fight. I did the preview show with the lads during the week, and I watched a good bit of Ivalev got into it with some of his old fights. And honestly, this is, I'm talking about a lad who's 17-0 now, but I don't think he's going to get to the very top level, right? And I think this fight showed why. Go on.
He's very stiff or very slow or something. I don't know. There's something janky going on with his style. He doesn't look comfortable or something. I don't know. I was expecting a lot more from him. I think he was very lucky to win that fight. I think if Lopez kind of, had a full notice
definitely.
on the full game plan, or a full camp, he probably would have won that. I thought he won the first round. I think two judges gave the first round to
definitely won that first round.
I don't know what's going on there, but to me, I thought he definitely won that round. And depending on how close you think those kind of submissions were in the third round, like I thought Evelev actually won the round. I don't think they were that close. The leg lock and stuff. A lot of times I'm of the mind that these guys don't really know what they're doing with leg locks unless you're like a really leg lock specialist, like a Palhares or something like that. So maybe I'm downplaying a little bit too much in my head due to that bias. But yeah, I think it was a really close fight. And, if he had the gas to go kind of harder for longer, he probably would have won that fight.
100%. I think on a full camp he wins that fight handily enough, to be honest. He was done by about minute 6, and he did get a second wind by the third round, but still I slightly disagree with you on the third round in that I did give it to Ivalev as well, but the reason I gave it to him, I thought the knee bar was actually pretty deep. You could see him grimacing and he was trying to pull it. Like, that's what you need to look for in those, no matter what the submission is.
But if you're in that for that long and nothing has exploded in your knee, then I don't think
it wasn't that long though, and it was at the end of the round as well. The reason I didn't give him the round is for the Kimura. Like, the Kimura was on, but like, who's getting fucking submitted by a Kimura in this day and age? And he was just kind of like, he was waiting in the position and then he kind of just got out of it.
If he had have just kind of landed a few decent shots there, you know.
Yeah, I thought Ivalev had done enough to be in enough of a lead that it was very close. It was a toss of a kind, and like I think the knee bar was the highest scoring thing in the whole round. It was the closest to coming to the end of the fight. Like a toss of a kind, really. Like if someone had scored that for Lopez, I would not have argued 1 second. I was very close to giving it to him myself. I was just thinking that Kimura just wasn't enough for me. But God, he looked very good in the first round. The armbar attempts landed the better shots. I don't see an argument for Ivalev.
Yeah, I was actually expecting probably to be a split decision, and you know I was expecting it to when it said 30-27, I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, to know what was going on. So yeah, I could if somebody's making an argument, as you said, for the third round and first round, then yeah, that's a fair argument in my opinion.
Indeed. Let's talk about we'll move quickly through this, but Cron Gracie, like what? Let's talk about UFC level for a second. Cron Gracie.
He's like a wish.com Ryan. What's Ryan Hall?
Yeah, he's not even that. He's just terrible. Like just useless. Like
he didn't even look. He should be in a different weight class, and I think those days are gone where like you're so like even when the opponent gets on top of you, they're not that afraid of your submissions when they've worn you down a little bit, because everybody knows how to defend. Like, you know, the main submissions and aren't going to get caught, and you're getting punched in the face, and it's just a different game than jiu-jitsu, and having just jiu-jitsu and basically nothing else, not even takedowns, like pulling guard and hoping for the best and hoping you can get a sweep. It's as you get towards anywhere near the top level, it's just those days are gone, I think.
It was like an Aikido master fighting against a real fighter. Like that's what it was, and that's what base level jiu-jitsu is these days. Basically, it's Aikido. Like you can use it if you have everything else, but like just jiu-jitsu alone. And I've been saying this for a long time, and I think people, you know, everyone's smart to it now, but it's not going to work. Like, and like Charles Jourdain,
yeah, like Ryan Hall actually, like as a comparison, has some kicks. He has some setups. Like he can get a takedown. He's not just reliant on like, oh, let me get on my back here and guard and hope this guy makes a mistake and I can capitalize. That's just it's just. And
he got there consistently. He got there. Yeah. He pulled guard like Jourdain.
He couldn't do anything
great
at all with it. He couldn't even get the angle to do anything.
It was just terrible. Like and like to even get into that position shows how, you know, limited of a fighter the Charles Jourdain is. Like, if we're being honest, to get into that position against someone that bad, like just jab the head off him and punch him. Like Cron Gracie shouldn't have got near him, but he did multiple times, and he could still do nothing about it. Like Cron Gracie's like, this is a 145. Paul Hughes is sitting there fucking at home watching this, and Cron Gracie is in the UFC. Like, put Paul Hughes in there against Charles Jourdain. We'll see how that goes, because there'll only be one winner in that fucking fight.
Well, he's there because he's Gracie, isn't he? Like, really?
Yeah, he's no business being there, and this will be his last UFC fight. Like, you can't put him in there again. Like, there's no way. He's just horrible, awful. Anyway, and just while we're talking about horrible and awful, what about that Braxton Smith? Fuck me, Parker Porter. He made Parker Porter look like fucking Fedor or something. It was so bad. He's like Sean Sheehan levels of cardio, just absolutely fucked after about 50 seconds. Horrible. Someone who didn't look horrible though was Matt Frivola, who I picked in my flyer of the week over my betting shop, plus 600 to get the knockout. Absolutely delighted. Drew Dober has been looking for one of these. Like, he's been going hell for leather with fucking everyone. Lads that hit really, really hard, and Matt Frivola just had too much dynamite in that right hand and landed it and finished him. It was a great win for Frivola, who'll move forward now.
Another one where kind of Drew Dober popped straight back up and was like, I'm grand, and was kind of moving around, but then he tried to like kind of stand, and you could see him kind of wobble. You know, he definitely got hit hard. Maybe it was a little bit early, like, you know, guys get wobbled in fights and things like that. Like, you know, maybe he would have a bit of an argument there, but I think if it had went on, it would have been just, you know, 2 or 3 more shots, and it would have been conclusive. I didn't even think about that, and Ian texted me about it, like, what do you think of the stoppage? I went back and I watched it, and I could see the argument after the initial right hand, but then the referee did give him the opportunity. He did land a few more shots, and I think in the end it was actually a pretty good stoppage, if I'm being honest. It was like the middle part of it that
Dober looked okay if you'd stopped it there, yeah, but I think he did give him the opportunity, so I have no problem with it. But yeah, it was an interesting one. It's definitely a debatable one. Kennedy Njoku then does what Kennedy Njoku does.
Wait till he gets hurt and then goes, okay, I'll start fighting now.
I'll start fighting now. And destroyed him. And looked a bit better, I think, even. Is looking better all the time. Good win there over Devin Clark. Chaos Williams fought some fella off the street, won a split decision. Verna Jandarova looked very good in beating Marina Rodriguez. She's right up there towards the title picture now as well. Phil Hawes got absolutely decimated by Ikram Ali Askarov. I was thinking to myself last night, this lad was so good, I might remember who he is tomorrow. And like he was very good. Just absolutely smashed him with a 1-2 down through the middle. And Claudio Ribeiro got a win as well over Joseph Holmes. Demetrius Johnson, Graeme. Did you see this fight? It was pretty good. Demetrius, it was one of those fights as well. This fight was scored as a whole. And I think my guy from MMA On Point, Jason Hartley, was saying, like, if this wasn't scored as a whole, if it was scored round by round, Demetrius probably would have lost this fight. But as a lot of people, I think, did point out as well, if it was scored round by round, Demetrius and Moraes probably would have both fought differently, which is also very, very true. But on the scoring system, that one championship have, Demetrius definitely deserved to win this. It was a great performance by him. Early, Moraes did well for the first couple of rounds. Demetrius won the third and fourth, even though they're not scored in rounds, and in the fifth was relatively close, but probably Moraes just shaded it. But Demetrius landed much the better shots in the third and fourth. He looked to have the more power than Moraes. He looked to be hurting Moraes, and Moraes was tiring, whereas like in the first couple of rounds it was just barely kind of Moraes ahead, but Demetrius really took the initiative and took the lead. And I don't know about you, Graeme, but I would love to see Demetrius Johnson retire now. Honestly, I think he's fighting. So one championship obviously do this, this hydration test and all of this. They call it flyweight, but it's really 135. So he's fighting above his weight class. But you
could see just looking at them throughout the three fights, like the size
way bigger. Moraes is just way bigger than him, but also like fighting at a weight class which allows him not to be drained and even, do you know what? I actually think he is a little bit drained because he'd probably be fighting at 145 maybe if he wasn't. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. Demetrius Johnson, in my opinion, the best fighter of all time. Not my opinion, a fact. The greatest of all time, in my opinion. Other people can have a different opinion on that, but he's not that anymore. He's just so good that he could beat a guy who's basically fucking 2 weight classes above him in a different scoring system under a different rule set. He's still good enough to beat him, and a world class fighter as well. And Moraes, don't get it twisted, how good fucking Moraes is. After already losing to him, just shows the greatness of Demetrius Johnson. I wax lyrical about DJ all the time, and I don't do it enough. That's how great he is. This lad deserves so much fucking credit.
Now he's avenged the loss, and is there anything left for him to do? He's done absolutely everything you could do, and multiple weight classes and things like that. So, I don't know. Do you know how much for like approximately, or is there any kind of numbers been thrown out about how much Demetrius Johnson is making per fight with one?
I'm not sure, but I think he was on a lot more than he was in the UFC anyway. So I think he's on good money.
So maybe he'll want to stick around and make a few more million before he retires. But if he chooses to retire now, which he probably won't, it's MMA. It would be, there's nothing left to do, and I've proven myself, and it's gonna be a hard mark to. As you said, people can argue about the greatest of all time, but you're gonna have to do a lot to be ahead of Demetrius Johnson in terms of achievements.
Yeah, and in terms of just what he's looked like as a technical fucking master throughout his career, there's none in comparison, I think. But I think, like, for Demetrius throughout his whole career, and and we talk about Francis saying this, but Demetrius is like, he's cared about money, but he's also cared more about himself, I think, and being a martial artist than anything else. And I think, like, if he thinks it's time, he will walk away. And I also think he's one of those guys that if he does retire, he won't come back. Like, he's very, very smart. Or he'll say, look, I'll take a bit of time, I'll take a year out or whatever.
Maybe he's in a unique case in terms of most fighters where he actually has like other kind of things to keep him occupied. You know, he has, I don't know much about his twitching or his Twitch streaming and all that stuff, but he seems to have a big following on that. And it's, you know, he was happy enough to kind of, you know, some guys want to stay in the UFC all the time. He was happy enough to go explore and do different things. So maybe he's the kind of character that could retire happily and not be itching to come back within a year or two. Yeah.
Do you watch this Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu stuff that's on these cards, Graeme, or do you stay away from it?
No.
You don't watch any. Do you know what? I kind of I like
you've been taken in.
I've been taken in. There's a few lads on it. Like, I won't tune in for all of it, but if Rod Tang is fighting, and Muay Thai is a fight, we call boxing a fight and all, and maybe kickboxing are about, but Muay Thai is a fucking fight. He's an absolute beast, and I like Mikey Musumeci as well. Himself and McGahan is the fight to make, but or the grappling match to make. But yeah, I like it. I like the way One Championship kind of mixed things up. But anyway, I talked about that loads. But yeah, good wins for the two of them. Stamp looked brilliant. She got the KO with the liver kick. Fucking Ryan Garcia fell on his knee at home watching that one. Brilliant win for her. And Chatry told me when I interviewed him last week that they're going to make it an interim title, obviously due to the circumstances around the Lee family there, and Stamp will be in line for that, I think so. And you know, she deserves it too. She's been on a great run, looked even better here. What about Saldic though? Saldic got knocked out by Sebastian Kadestam. It's funny,
he looked very one-dimensional, and I know it didn't last long, but he didn't look great at all there. So I wonder if there was something going on, or if I don't know. That was a bad performance, I thought. Yeah, it
wasn't great. I think there's a lot of pressure coming in on him here as well. Like it was a weird first fight with the broken cup and all, and the no contest. He didn't get the fight, whatever his name is, Razamanov again. And then they put him in against Kadestam, who's like, it's a very good matchup for him in terms of like, it's going to be a striker matchup. He struck with him. He had a lot of good points in the first round, won the first, round, even though it's not scored as rounds, but you get what I mean. And then Kadestam just kind of stayed there. As you said, very one-dimensional, just throwing the left hook all the time from Saldic, and then he got caught with that big elbow, and he kept going for another minute or so, but it was over by the time that elbow was landed. And it was a poor enough performance from Saldic. Look, we've seen this before from him against Dilkas Duplessis. He came back and he won the rematch. I wonder, did they do the rematch here again? Maybe they make that Ramazanov fight. I'm not sure what they do with him, but it's been a very tough start to the career in One Championship for Saldic. But you have to remember as well with Saldic, he's 24 fights into his career now. This guy has had like top level UFC fights outside of the UFC for years now, so it's very hard to keep that up, I suppose. And I'd be interested to see what happens here and how he bounces back. And I favoured Saldic massively here in the boxing match, but I've watched Kadestam a good few times, and this guy is a legitimate top fighter and hits very, very hard. And if you get hit by him, that's what fucking happens. And back to the drawing board, I think, for Roberto Saldic and that one. Sage Northcutt, I don't.
Yeah, kind of goes against what I was saying earlier in the Evolov fight, but well, it doesn't go against it. But when Sage came down, went for the leg look, I was thinking, Sage probably doesn't know what he's doing here with the heel hook.
Got it. Yeah.
All of a sudden, he was tapping pretty quick.
Yeah, he did it well. Like, as well, he caught on to it, and he kept turning with it. Mushtaba tried to defend as well as you can, wasn't able to do it. And it was 39 seconds, so there isn't too much to talk about in this. But like, I picked Mushtaba coming in. I thought he would win. I thought his wrestling would be too good for Sage. He did take him down and all, but Sage caught him in that heel hook and submitted him. And interesting, like, because 4 years away from the cage, Sage as well. His jiu-jitsu was not great before that, but maybe he's been working a lot on jiu-jitsu in that time.
It's a very good sign, because when he got taken down, I was like, this isn't looking good. But obviously that's a good sign that he has been working on things. I know he's had a lot of injuries, and sometimes it's hard to kind of develop your game when you're constantly kind of injured and things like that. But the signs are good from that very short sample size we have there.
Yeah, indeed, and a great win for him. I just wonder who they put him in against next. I don't know. who they'll find for. They were supposed to do the Shinya Aoki fight. Maybe they could do that again, but that I think that'd be not bad matchmaking, to be honest. Let's see. Aung La Nsang then got a great win as well. A quick guillotine in the second round against Rong Fang. Rene de Ridder went to a decision with Tyree Atolo in the grappling. Fair play to him. And Okra Young, the former champion, with a great win over Loan Tainanis, who is a very, very good wrestler. So, if the belt held by Christian Lee is also going to be not necessarily vacated, but there's going to be an interim belt, I think Oak will be in that conversation. And Kairat Akhmatov as well beat Reese McLaren in the flyweight division. So he faced off with Demetrius after the main event. So if Demetrius does fight again, that I think will be the fight. That was this weekend. Let's talk about next weekend, Graeme. The big fight for us next weekend is Ian Garry, who is taking on Daniel Rodriguez. And this is a massive, massive, massive step up for Ian Garry. He's never fought anyone at this level before. Rodriguez has beaten Kevin Lee. He's beaten Li Zhengliang. He's beaten Mike Perry. He's been in there with Neil Magny. He's been in there with Nicholas Dalby. Tim Means. He's beaten Tim Means. Beaten, some very, very, very good guys. And it's a big step up for Ian Garry. If he wins it, he'll be borderline top 15 here, I think. How do you see the fight going, Graeme? What do you think of it? Do you think it's the right time for this step up?
Yeah, I think it probably is. I think it's going to be a tough fight for him. I think he'll have enough to win, but it's definitely a big step up. I probably expect it to go to a decision. I think Ian will have to be careful. If he gets hit with big shots early, like we've seen him a couple of times, it could go a different way. But I think he has the composure and the patience and the all round game to get this done. But I think there's going to be some adversity. There's probably going to be some adversity here again to overcome, or at least he's not going to have it all his own way. And it's definitely, as you said, it's definitely a step up. And it's you need these steps to prove where you are and to make those steps. And hopefully Ian Garry's able to get it done. And if he does beat Daniel Rodriguez, then he'd definitely be looking at a ranking or fighting a ranked guy to get into the rankings next. So yeah, this is kind of where we get to see how good the real Ian Garry is, and I expect him to go out there and get the job done. And I'd be interested to see who they match him up against next. But if it went the other way, I wouldn't be too shocked. This is a high level. These guys in the UFC, he's fought some he's beaten Kevin Lee, as you said. Obviously in his last outing he lost to Neil Magny, but Neil Magny's a very difficult matchup for anybody, and especially on his day is a very difficult guy. Lee, he beat by decision as well, so he's definitely no easy matchup, and it's a very interesting one, and I expect Ian to get it done. But yeah, this is definitely we're definitely going to have questions asked and answered that we haven't before.
I think the step up is the big issue here, right? And when we say step up, when you fight someone who has a name, who's been around for a long time, but you're stepping up from Keenan Song, you're stepping up from Gabe Green, you're stepping up from Darian Weeks, who are good fighters, but that is a very, very big level of a step up. I thought they were going to move, and not to say he's not going to be ready for it, but I think that's the biggest issue here and the biggest possible pitfall. I thought they were going to step him up against someone, say like a Tim Means, and if you fought Tim Means and then Daniel Rodriguez, that would have made a lot more sense, I think, and it would have been a lot more of a move. The other thing as well, we talked about it with Gilbert Burns, it's only 2 months of a turnaround from his last fight, and he got hit and knocked down hard the first round in that fight as well. I'm sure he had to take a bit of time off after that as well. But Ian Garry stays in shape and he's training all year round and all like that. So I wonder, will it be a big issue? I think probably not. I think that he should be okay on that. But the other side of it, then maybe those are the negatives out the way. Looking at the positives, I think they both tried to fight in a similar sort of way. They're good technical strikers who try to win kind of every second of the fight and control the pace, control the fight. And this is about who is going to be able to control that pace, control the distance, control the fight. I think Ian uses his length very well, uses his jab very well, and I think that's going to be a massive key here. If he can use that jab and not take shots behind it, I think he'll win. I think he's on to a real winner here. And I think it's as simple as that. Get your combinations going while being defensively sound against Daniel Rodriguez and you'll win it. Now, he did that the last fight as well. He got hit once only nearly, and it was a very big shot. You take a big shot like that against Daniel Rodriguez and you're probably not getting back up because this guy can hit. So I think Ian's going to have to be perfect here. It's, as I said, a massive step up, but he's been looking for a step up. You know, he's really been looking for a step up. Ian Garry's his ability is fantastic. He's well able for it. And as you said, Graeme, win or lose, like this is a very, very big fight for him, a very, very tough matchup. He'll be back again even if he loses. Like, I truly believe that. I think he's the impression he has made, the improvements he has, impression he's made in the UFC, the improvements he has made in his game are something that will continue to go on. And I'm picking him here. I think he'll beat Daniel Rodriguez, and I think it'll probably be did you say go to decision? I think it'll probably be the same. I think he'll beat him over a decision. And I'm just very interested to see how much Rodriguez can kind of push him. And if he can kind of, pin him to his collar a little bit and see, to see the way Ian Garry reacts. We've seen it in the past. He's reacted very well to all, every time something has gone bad against him, which has not been much because he's been very good at controlling fights and winning fights. But Ian Garry's technical ability is very good. And I've said it in his most recent fights. If he can put that technical ability, which he has really refined over his last few fights, with a bit of that killer instinct that he also has, I fear for other people in that division on the way up. And if Daniel Rodriguez gets that as well, it could be a tough night for him. But it could be a tough night for Ian as well if Daniel Rodriguez shows up. It's a great fight, a very, very good fight. But yeah, I think Ian Garry will have enough to do it. And we'll say it again: what a fucking time it's been for Irish MMA. And if Ian Garry wins this, by God, it'll be a bright summer. There won't be a cow milked in Dublin next Saturday night if he does it. Johnny Walker as well on this card, Graeme, another Irishman. Jesus, it's fucking brilliant. He's fighting Anthony Smith. If he wins that, we're talking about title pictures. I think the new I use the word refined there. I think the new more refined Johnny Walker will have enough to beat Anthony Smith. To be honest, I like the fight, honestly. I think it's a good fight. How do you see this one, Graeme? Do you think it's hard to know with Smith? If he turns up, he could put it to Johnny Walker, but if he doesn't, I'd say Walker will definitely have enough.
Yeah, I think Smith's going to be strong early. I think, he was meant to fight Jamal Hill, so this is a huge fight for Johnny if he can win it, for both guys if they can win it. Johnny, it took a little bit of kind of teething problems, changing his style from being like a kind of crazy horse to a bit more, implementing a bit more strategy and kind of patience into his game. But he looks like he's kind of put it together and, at the right time for this fight. And obviously it's a bit of a step up from Calderalab and Paul Craig, but I think he's looked very good recently, Johnny has, and I see the odds are really close. I see both guys have the potential to finish each other, but I just see Johnny being too big, too strong, and too powerful as the fight goes on. Like if he can avoid kind of a bit of an early storm that Smith might bring, I think as the rounds go on, I think Johnny's power and just quickness should be enough to get him a win here, maybe by a finish or a decision.
Yeah, indeed. Looking forward to seeing that one. It's going to be an interesting night for us watching this at all. We'll be getting texts from the Irish crew all around the place, whether good or bad, after this anyway. So it's very, very good.
Anthony Smith is another guy, one of them guys I've kind of underestimated a lot. I've picked against him a lot, so maybe that'll come back to bite me. There's a few of those guys going around.
Yeah. Who are the other ones? Glover, we did.
Jan Blachowicz. Glover I used to always pick. I think that one got confused. I think it was Jan and somebody else. I can't remember who else.
Look, these things happen in MMA. Do you think Jairzinho Rosenstruck has any chance against Gelton Almeida? I think Gelton's going to destroy him, if I'm being honest. What do you think? Yeah,
he has an early puncher's chance. Big punchers in this division. It can end that quickly, but yeah, I think it's unlikely. And if he is going to get it done, he'll have to get it done very early. And I think people are aware of kind of his danger and his the holes in his game. So yeah, it should be. If he doesn't get it done early, he'll probably end up kind of getting beaten down and finished or dominated.
I'm just looking here. This card is on at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, so it's like 4:30 for us, is it? That's probably going to be clashing with real sports, so that's not great. But anyway, we'll take an early night. It's a pretty
4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, 4:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, mad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a pretty good card. It's ABC card, I think. Is that correct? Yeah, it is. So it's on the network channel over in America, so big for them. But, you know, Mackenzie Dern, Angela Hill is on it as well. Tim Means, Morono, Matt Brown, Court McGee. This is actually really like a pretty good card. I like the Carlos Solberg, Ihor Peteria fight as well. And so there's some good stuff on this. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Before we finish up, this Bellator coming up as well.
Yeah, that's what I was just
Fabian Edwards, Mousasi. Who are you picking?
I did my preview show there. I recorded it yesterday or the day before, and I think I picked Fabian. I was one of those ones that I remember saying on the preview show, I was like, Jesus, who did I pick? I don't know who I picked. No, I picked Mousasi, I think. I was like, I better write it down. And I don't know. I think it's a close enough fight. Like, if Mousasi turns up and he looks like Mousasi from a year ago or 2 years ago, I think he'll win.
2 or 3 years ago. Even, you know, he is inconsistent sometimes, but, you know, Fabian Edwards definitely has so much potential and so much ability. He just needs to let it go. And, you know,
this is exactly what I said.
You know, maybe the win over Machida and like that might give him some confidence, but, you know, he's won 2 in a row. Like, obviously, Mousasi's had a lot of fights. Is he as motivated as Fabian Edwards is here? Nearly killed him, Leon there again. It's a really difficult one for me to call. It depends on kind of which version of both guys turn up.
Yeah, I believe if Fabian Edwards wins this as well, that he will be fighting Johnny Eblin for the title in Ireland. That's, I think, what they're looking at. Now, that's obviously not official or anything, but I think that's what they're looking at. So it's a massive fight for him, because like, he wins that, it's only a short hop over from Birmingham. He could have a massive, hometown advantage, if you want to put it that way, against Eblin, which he'd probably need, because Eblin is a monster. But if Mousasi wins, he just got destroyed by Eblin like a year ago. Like, I don't know. This fight, I love the fight. I think it's a very good fight, but it makes no sense matchmaking wise. I don't think it's a weird one.
Well, if Fabian wins, I think Bellator would be a lot happier.
Yeah, definitely. Like, but why do you even need to put Fabian in here? Like, just give him the title shot straight away. I don't know. It made no sense. But the weird thing about this as well is Costello Van Steenis is also on this card. He has a win over Fabian. He's fighting Douglas Lima. That's a very good win as well. So maybe if he does win that,
that's another hard fight to call as well. There's some hard fights to call on this Bellator card.
Very good card.
I like that when it's hard to know how these fights are going to look.
Yeah, I was going through and I was like, this is kind of snuck up on me how good of a card it is. Like that Mansour Banoui against Brent Primus fight. That's a fucking good fight. Yeah. Both of them. And
Asail Juge against George Sasu. I'm sure Brett Johns is delighted to be buried on the prelims as well.
Yeah, Jesus.
Not getting any love again. He's in kind of the Brian Moore kind of matchmaking category for some reason. Yeah. But yeah, Asail, he's a big prospect at SBG Ireland, a really, really good striker. We've seen him in the Bellator Dublin shows recently, showing his all-round game. His opponent hasn't been fighting that regularly over the last few years. You'd expect him to go out and look good here, but he's definitely, if people haven't been paying attention to Asail, I think he's a very, very good prospect.
Indeed. There's also a KSW card next week. Our guy Sean Denny, I'm sure, will have a preview for that. There's a few names people probably know. That Donovan Desme is on it. Brian High is on the card. Loads of lads whose name I can't pronounce are on the card. Sebastian Prupska, who's a good fighter at 135 pounds. So there's a lot of mixed martial arts, as there always is. So we'll leave it at that, Graeme. It's it's a fucking...
How nervous out of 10 are you for Man United's run in the Premier League starting today?
As you know, I'm very, very negative. So not that nervous. I'm kind of like resigned to the fact we're not going to get it. I'm more nervous.
You're just saying that to kind of give yourself a mental out, so it won't break your heart so much if it does happen.
I 100% understand. I am not above doing that. But I've lost faith. We've too many injuries, and I just don't think we're that good. But do you know what? I'm more worried.
If Harry Maguire starts, there's a chance.
Yeah, well, there's always a chance if Harry Maguire.
Get him in there till the end of the season. Get the beloved comedy duo of Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire back together.
No, please don't. I'm more worried about. Remember we were talking about the hurling last week, the Munster Championship. It's mad. There's been 2 games, right? There's 5 teams, and not one of the teams has won 2 games. mad. It's how fucking competitive it is.
Limerick aren't out when they lost there, no? I thought they were out when they lost that last week.
It's a round robin, so all 5 teams have to play each other, and the top 2 go into the Munster final, and the one more goes into...
Jesus, they give you loads of chances to get there.
Football is worse though, but the hurling is the best. The Munster Championship is absolutely unfucking believable. Limerick are not playing for another 2 weeks now. They're playing Tipperary, and that's a must-win game. If Limerick lose that, they're not out, but they're as good as out. So it's absolute, and Tipper the farm team this year. So it's a big one. It's a big one. We look forward to it, and
exciting times down in Limerick.
Exciting. Well, it was exciting times for the last few years. I'm not sure our best player got injured. Our 2 best players actually both got injured.
Let's see what they can do. Couple of injuries. Sean Sheehan talked about a couple of injuries. If the team is so good, blah blah blah. No,
I'm just saying.
They should show what they're really made of and win again. Are you not confident in your boys?
Imagine if Van Dijk and Salah both got injured. Like, you'd be in, wouldn't be great for Liverpool.
Sure, Van Dijk got attempted leg amputation and he hasn't been the same since.
He hasn't actually. Jeez, he's square slow now though, isn't he?
He can't accelerate. It's just like he's just stuck in the mud. It's like the odd time he actually accelerates and you're like, oh, maybe he's back, and the next game he's like stuck in the mud.
Who was it, your man Mbuemo? The last day just like waltzed past him.
Just fell over. He just like skidded like 5 yards and then fell. It was like, what is going on? He was like, he caught a bit of fucking ice on the pitch.
The other one, the Michael Jackson meme, that was from the game beforehand, before that as well, wasn't it? He's getting done now and everything.
Yeah, it looked like he'd actually injured himself falling over. It was like, we need to sort out your boots here, mate. You're sliding all over the place. What's going on?
Stop. Like, Liverpool are terrible, but Man United, like, we're both just terrible now. We're at like the same level of shitness at the moment.
Liverpool's season has been like disastrous. Man United season has been all right because it's like the first season with the new manager and stuff. Liverpool were expecting to be challenging for the title. Like, Man United fans got a little bit carried away before Liverpool beat them 7-0, talking quadruples and title challenges and stuff.
Never happened.
At least you were. No, Man United fans were claiming, like, maybe you weren't personally.
No one was.
There was talk. I saw it. I was watching.
We could win the double. We could still win the double, Graeme. We could still win it.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. So, I think Man United's season's been better as long as they.
Would you rather Man United
completely bottle it and drop out of the Champions League? That would be an absolute disaster.
Would you rather Man United win the FA Cup or City win the treble?
See, with City, it's a difficult one because it doesn't really count in my mind. It's not really real. It's just like they cheated, or charged with cheated or whatever. They allegedly cheated. And, I'd been talking about this for years. It was kind of blatantly obvious what was going on. Everybody who was kind of looked into it at all knew what was going on, and it doesn't really count. But I also really, really don't like Man United. really, really don't like them. So, like, if City are going to beat Man United, they wanted them to humiliate them like 8-0 or something like that. So
that would not 8-0, 6-0.
Just like something maybe historic, like a 12-0 or something would be good.
Honestly, if Harry Maguire's playing,
I'd Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw bumping into each other and falling over, and all would be hilarious.
Oh God, if I ever see Harry Maguire and Fred, like, just leave me be. Like, what have I done to deserve this fucking shit? Like, Jesus, leave me be, please. Anyway,
see, Fred like once every 10 games he puts in like a really good game, and people are like, oh yeah, this is what Fred. We love Fred. And in the next game he's just like absolutely diabolical.
Fred is weird, though, right? Fred can be diabolical for 30 minutes, and for the last 15 minutes of the half he'd smash in a goal, or he'd just running the game.
I was actually thinking he scores the odd goal out of nowhere. He's like playing terrible, and then he just rifles one in the top corner.
He's a brilliant free kick. He's like Man United's best free kick taker. He hasn't scored one yet, but he's only taken like 3, and he's almost scored every single fucking one of them. Fred is the weirdest player of all time. Like, he's both good and absolutely useless at the same time. Like,
are you expecting Ten Hag to make like mass changes in the summer, like to kind of go back to his style that he's kind of had before, or do you think he's kind of just trying to kind of build around the core he already has and maybe keep away from his kind of philosophy?
If the club is bought and he has money, I think he will make I don't think you can make mass changes, but I think he'll probably buy 4 or 5 players, which is needed.
4 or 5 starters or squad players. So, like,
it depends. Like, I think if Varane and Martinez are back fit, I think he'll start both of them. I think he'll buy a right back. I think he'll buy another midfielder. I definitely buy a starting striker, hopefully, anyway. So I think
is Harry Maguire going to be shipped out, do you think, or is he going to be the backup centre back?
Like
Lindelof's a decent backup there.
Lindelof's a very good backup, yeah. And like when Lindelof is not with Harry Maguire, he looks good. Like I think people like think of Lindelof as terrible because
Harry Maguire's on the pitch. It just feels like the room's on fire. Like it just
but like Harry Maguire takes 4 touches where 1 is necessary, and he just ruins the whole game. And like, what are you doing, mate? Like he's awful. But it all depends. Like if the club isn't sold, then he'll be able to buy no one. Like maybe he'll be able to buy one player. Like he'll probably have to like get a cut price striker or something like that. Like I could see us fucking buying. I know we were talking about Ollie Watkins beforehand, but we could, instead of getting fucking Eichmann or whatever you call him, we're probably going to get Ollie Watkins or someone like that. For 50 million.
I've been reading a couple of things. Read a kind of the Bellingham situation, and it seems that a lot of it comes down to there's going to be a change in like maximum. It's going to be like 3% maximum that a non-official agent can get from a sale. So all these players who have like brothers or family members or friends as their manager and aren't officially licensed as like FIFA agents are only going to be able to get 3%. So these kind of big players, these young players like Jude Bellingham, are looking to move quickly this summer before this change comes in. The ones that don't have the kind of the super agents. So yeah, just, I think there's going to be a lot of movement of players this summer. Liverpool need like. What do you think of
Alexis McAllister? You're signing him, aren't you?
Yeah, well, there's rumours going around that he has a £68 million pounds release clause, but I don't know how reliable that is. Like football media news is just like a cesspit of lies and tweets that are just ready to be deleted if they turn, and just guesses and just absolute nonsense and just just kind of making assumptions and things like that. So it's really hard to know what's going on. But McAllister, I've been keeping a little bit of a more eye on him since he's been linked and stuff like that since the summer. But I
don't know that he's like fit the Liverpool type of player. I don't know. He seems
to be like a leader. He seems to be like a nice guy, which is like apparently there's like a big no dickheads policy in the Liverpool. Ronaldo wouldn't be coming in or whatever. You know what I mean?
Klopp the biggest dickhead in world football. You see him there, he fucking headbutting the linesman.
There's enough dickheads. So don't need any more dickheads. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of movement. I think this transfer window for a lot of clubs.
If you could buy one player, who would it be? We'll leave Bellingham.
It would have been Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, it can't be Bellingham because he's gone. He's turned you down.
It's terrible. I don't know. I was hoping that kind of Barcelona's financial crisis would be a little bit worse than maybe it is, or maybe it is worse and it's just being covered up, and they might have to sell like a Gavi or a Pedri or something. But it doesn't look like it. But Gavi would be very nice. There's somebody young like that who's already good. Who,
but like what Klopp did very well was buy lads who he didn't expect him to buy, and they turned into like great players that they fit the program. Like he's not seemingly not
except for like an Alisson and a Van Dijk and things like that. Where obviously Alisson only had one season, I suppose, of like kind of top level football before, but he was very, very good and
like it's never worked
for Brazil and shown himself.
It's never worked off for him when he's tried to have players in midfield. Like the workhorses are always what have worked for Liverpool in midfield. Why? Like I don't think McAllister is going to be that. I don't know why he's gotten away from that. Like it's a bit weird. Anyway,
we have Curtis Jones now. Who needs Jude Bellingham? We can go off and make his dad loads of money in Real Madrid.
Is Curtis Jones
apparently Real Madrid are? This is it's hard to know. I think it was Falk, your man Christian Falk. Is that his name?
Yeah.
It may be wrong, but he was saying that Real Madrid are lining up this like $250,000 job every year for dad, for Jude Bellingham's dad as part of the deal. All the ways of getting around this stuff. Like so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the way these things go. And Liverpool, obviously, John Henry and stuff, like they've done a great job to try and compete with City, but yeah, it's just Liverpool or make a wrong move or something doesn't work out immediately or doesn't work out at all. But we'll see what happens with Darwin or whatever. It's a bigger blow to Liverpool than it is to Chelsea have made like how many 50 signings on 8-year contracts and all this nonsense, and they can just kind of go again and do it again as long as they know how to kind of skirt around financial fair play. So. Yeah, Liverpool really, really have to get this transfer window right, and hopefully they do. But obviously, it remains to be seen, and the competition is going to be even stiffer. Newcastle obviously look like they're going to get Champions League and going to make some big signings. Like they're being linked with people like Rafinha and stuff like that, and even being linked with people like Neymar. So like, who knows what they're going to do? And obviously, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United are all going to be up there. It's getting very difficult up there.
Arsenal,
it depends where they spend. Like I know Ramsdale's like a hero there, but like they need a better goalkeeper in my opinion. They need another centre back. Depending, like if they do good business as well, it depends. It's going to be very interesting to see the transfer deals.
Would you take Declan Rice?
The price of him is going to be, if West Ham had have got relegated, they're not going to get relegated now. It doesn't look like.
You never know after this evening. Although, if
they win this evening, then I think they're pretty much already safe. There's too many other teams down there below them, but you never know. But like, the price is going to be too high. I think you have that English premium as well. That like.
He's Irish,
adds like 20-30 million to the price tag. I know, but like he's qualified or whatever. He comes into that category of satisfying the rules.
Yeah, indeed. I'm just like, I just hope Man United get bought out by some oil baron and put 500 billion into it, and we're buying fucking Mbappe and Messi and Militao and
Messi. I don't know if he's.
I'll take him just for the crack. Have him shine Garnacho's boots. That's
didn't he miss training to go off and get like 4.5 million from some?
Like, we were supposed to have a day off.
I can't remember the story exactly.
We were supposed to have a day off, so I just left, and we didn't have a day off. Oh, shucks, sorry.
I was picking up millions, mate. Come on,
leave me alone. But yeah, all right, we leave it there. Sure, we'll before we go as well, shout out to our friends over at Manscaped as well. Use promo code SevereMMA, get 20% off and free shipping there. Patreon.
Yeah, they've been sponsoring us for a long time. We really appreciate, obviously, everybody who's bought through and supported us by supporting them, and keeping the sponsorship going and keeping the lights on, as Sean likes to say.
Yeah, 100%. And like they have the Manscaped crop wipes as well. I think they're called. Those are great to bring around with you. Be a sweaty summer, give an old wipe to the brow or a wipe to the underarms or the balls even or whatever. Throw them away. Brilliant things to buy, and they're not that expensive either. And the shavers, the whole lot. Yeah, Manscaped have done a lot for us, and if you could support them, it'd be absolutely brilliant. Support us as well on Patreon if you could. The balance breakdown is out Tuesday, as we mentioned earlier on. That's going to be really good. I will have the Q&A out on Wednesday. If you haven't sent in your questions yet, you can do that over on the Patreon. There's a really good Speaker's Corner coming up this week, Graeme. Myself and Harry went deep for about 50 minutes, I think, and I was really fucking passionate. I genuinely, I'm not even saying this, I think this is the best Speaker's Corner we've ever done. We're kind of talking about like fighter pay and things like that, and like how it's basically impossible to make money in mixed martial arts. Honestly, it's a great fucking listen. It's the start of the month as well now, so good time. It literally costs less than a pint in Dublin for the whole month, so great.
How about this? I see other people doing this. How about this? If we get 50 quote tweets with Speaker's Corner in the quote tweet of this podcast, we'll put that out on the feed for free. What do you think, Sean?
Sure. 50 seems an awful lot now. 50 seems an awful lot.
We gotta make them work for it. Come on.
We have to make them work for it, sure. So what are the exact things we need to do? Who's still listening at an hour and a half in after the
quote tweeted the original post on SevereMMA's Twitter with Speaker's Corner mentioned in the quote tweet.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it sounds like a little game the YouTubers play.
We go with 20. I think 50 is a lot. We go with 20 quote tweets.
Jays, that's come on.
20. All right, we leave it there. Thank you.
20. Okay, fine.
Give us and even if you don't want to do any of that, give us a thumbs up. If you could write even like a 5 or 10 word review on iTunes or whatever, that'd be absolutely brilliant. I don't even think I've said this to you, Graeme, but April was the biggest month in the history of the SevereMMA podcast. More listens than any other month ever.
Oh yeah, first time hearing of it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Sure, people probably tuned out like 10 minutes ago when we started talking about Liverpool, Man United.
Talking about
so they're not going to hear any of this. There could be no quote tweets whatsoever. People are like on a podcast over. They're talking shite now. Next,
they're talking about fucking Wijnaldum. 5 years. Oh yeah, no bother, lads. All right, we leave it there. So thanks everyone for listening. Graeme, inspirational quote of the week. Give it to us.
I love myself better than you. I know it's wrong. So what should I do?
Wise words. We'll see you next Sunday. Good luck.